Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome on my channel for universal peace. This is Try Something.Vegetarian, and you are all very welcome, all people, all Muslims, all Christians, all atheists, all unbelievers, all Jews, and all the communists and capitalists and fascists, everybody, you're very welcome. And this is the broadcast. New Haaretz poll, only 34% of Israelis support, quote, two-state solution, unquote, but support annexation. So in this broadcast I want to take a look at two articles, review two articles, if you will. One is the Allgemeiner, New Haaretz poll, only 34% of Israelis support two-state solution. And another article, most Israelis oppose two-state solution, support annexing Judea and Samaria. The Christian Broadcasting News or Network. Okay. So what does that mean? Annexation. Annexation is the administrative action and concept in international law relating to the forcible acquisition of one state's territory by another state. It is generally held to be an illegal act. And we can check that wiki article. So in my broadcasts I've always warned about the possibility of a two-state solution world war. I am still preparing some stuff. And basically there are several solutions to avoid a two-state solution world war. They could have a one-state solution, for example, giving everybody a passport. Or the Palestinians could propose giving the Temple Mount to the Israelis because they have Mecca, and that would prevent a world war. Because I would think, well, what would Russia do? For example, if there's a two-state solution world war, then it would first be split in two groups, divide to conquer. One of their famous tactics, basically. And then you have Palestine and Israel, and if they go to war with each other, then their ally countries, their allies, the US and Russia, could go to war with each other if there's one missile or something happens, and they go to war. And it could escalate into a third Jesuit world war. And it may be their goal to impose their satanic Luciferian totalitarian global government. But first, they've made clear in their book quotes, they want to reduce the global population to 500 million, meaning getting rid of 7 billion people. And it's the Jesuits and Masons, of course. I made it clear, I always make it clear in my broadcasts. So I'm not accusing whole countries or groups of people that are not Jesuits nor Masons. Though I also mentioned the Committee of 300, Bilderberg, Skull and Bones, etc. They are all controlled by the same people. And we all know, or I think most people know, who they are. The Vatican, the Jesuits, famous for the pedophilia because they've paid more in these pedo cases than anybody else. But the picture I wanted to show you all is another picture. of the cancer scalar orb Armageddon, Moshiach, the Messiah. I had prepared it all and my computer was acting weird, so now I restarted and then I have to prepare everything again. But it's done now, so now we can start reading the article. So my question would be, if they would annex these areas, Judea and Samaria, what would Russia do? Would they just let them annex it? Would there be nobody that would do anything about that? Or would that be a problem? Would that result in a world war? And are a majority of the Israelis for or against that? We've seen these 70 protesters killed in Gaza, unjustifiable, and Trump saying that he'll take the oil, meaning the cancer oil, in at least 2 videos that I've already covered. And then there's talk of the red heifer that was born, and a video on YouTube about Trump having that plan of building that third temple, that he has that plan, he's had that plan for 35 years.
Take back the oil.
Okay, so let's listen to Trump first.
Take back the oil. Once you go over and take back that oil, they have nothing.
But how do you take it back?
Right, you have to go in. You have to go in.
With ground troops.
Well, you bomb the hell out of them, and then you encircle it, and then you go in, and you let Mobil go in, and you let our great oil companies go in. Once you take that oil, they have nothing left.
ISIS is making a tremendous amount of money because they have certain oil caps, right? They have certain areas of oil that they took away. They have some in Syria, some in Iraq. I would bomb the out of them. I would just bomb those suckers. And that's right. I'd blow up the pipes. I'd blow up the I'd blow up every single inch. There would be nothing left. And you know what? You'll get Exxon to come in there in 2 months. You ever see these guys, how good they are, the great oil companies? They'll rebuild that sucker brand new. It'll be beautiful. And I'd ring it, and I'd take the oil. And I said, I'll take the oil.
So, no blood for cancer oil is what I say, universal peace now. Perhaps people could protest against this on Dam Square or worldwide or whatever, to prevent that two-state solution, world war, which may be their plan. And it's covered up on YouTube. People that Google world war find a computer video game that's newly released by the name of World War III. Because they know that was Google search #1. So let's read this article, allgemeiner.com.
March 29, 2019, 9:08 a.m. 0 New Haaretz poll. Only 34% of Israelis support two-state solution. Members of the Palestinian Authority security forces disperse a Hamas demonstration in the West Bank city of Hebron, December 14, 2018. Photo, Reuters, Musika Wazma, file. JNS.org, a new poll published by the left-wing newspaper Haaretz, under the title One State, Two States, Whatever, confirmed that Israelis overwhelmingly oppose a so-called two-state solution. Two-state solution is a misnomer for creating a Palestinian Arab terror state on lands that were historically Jewish and are legally designated for the Jewish homeland. Only 1/3, 34%, of the persons polled preferred a two-state solution. Notably, 25% of the poll's respondents were non-Jews, most of whom were Arabs, Israeli Jewish citizens, with the exception of far-left groups such as Meretz, generally even more strongly favor outcomes that do not involve creating a Palestinian Arab terror state. Moreover, the poll found that a majority, 60%, of Israelis having an opinion on the subject favor Israeli annexation of Judea, Samaria, either partially or fully. 42% favor annexation versus 28% who oppose annexation, while 30% have no opinion. Even among those who prefer a two-state resolution, there is a strong desire for Israel to annex Area C and Judea, Samaria. Moreover, these results also included the views of the 25% of poll respondents who were non-Jews, most of whom were Arab. The Haaretz article also notes that only 3 of Israel's numerous political parties openly support creating a Palestinian Arab state, and stated that the new Kahalavan party has a purposefully blurry vision for resolving the conflict. March 29, 2019 2:12 p.m. New York Times corrections column tells a sad story on Israel coverage for a clear view of just how much trouble the New York Times has covering Israel and Jewish issues. Keep. The new Haaretz poll confirms other recent polls that demonstrate overwhelming Israeli opposition to a Palestinian Arab state. For instance, the 2017 Makat poll showed that an overwhelming 10-to-1 majority of Israelis oppose a Palestinian Arab state and favor Israel's sovereignty over Judea Samaria. Sinu polls show overwhelming opposition to Palestinian Arab state and concessions. Zo, April 3, 2017, Israeli opposition to the creation of a Palestinian Arab state makes eminent sense. Such a state would likely be an Iranian Hamas Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine fought a terrorist state, dedicated to Israel's destruction, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned years ago. Even if such a state agreed to demilitarization, it would not remain demilitarized for long. Such a state would have the power to make alliances with other hostile states and the ability to import sophisticated weaponry for attacking and exterminating Jews. Palestinian Arab rocket attacks on Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Ben Gurion International Airport, and Kfar Sava would become a regular occurrence. In the past year, Netanyahu has clearly stated that a Palestinian state is not feasible at this time.
Universal
It
peace
would
now.
simply be a terrorist state. It is ludicrous to even think of creating a Palestinian Arab state when that would-be state's predecessor, the Palestinian Authority, PA, continues to pay hundreds of millions of dollars per year in pay-to-slay payments to terrorists that murder Jews. The PA is the only regime in the world that pays people to murder a specific group, and this week, continuing the PA's heinous practice of honoring and glorifying Jew killers, the Palestinian Authority village of Brukham named a street after the Palestinian Arab terrorist who murdered Rabbi Ettinger, a beloved father of 12 children, and gifted musician Sergeant Galton. Street to be named after Ariel terrorist. We urge think tanks, members of Congress, Jewish organizations, etc., to take heed of the views of the Israeli public, and to discontinue calling for the creation of a Palestinian Arab terrorist state. Mark Levinson is chairman of the Zionist Organization of America's National Board. Morton Klein is the national president of the Zionist Organization of America. An overwhelming 10-to-1 majority of Israelis oppose a Palestinian Arab state and favor Israel's sovereignty over Judea Samaria.
Why is it that in almost all articles that we find, whether it's BBC, New York Times, or any other website, why is it that we almost always see these spelling errors, grammatical errors, etc., these speech errors are made with synthetic telepathy? Very funny. So, a new poll published by left-wing newspaper Haaretz under the title, quote, "One state, two states, whatever," unquote, confirmed that Israelis overwhelmingly oppose a so-called, quote, two-state solution. Or am I crazy that Israelis overwhelmingly oppose a so-called two-state solution? I think it's overwhelmingly. Is it just evidence that everybody is dumbed down? Everybody's in the cancer, cell phone radiation. Everybody is turning into mentally impaired people, basically.
Most Israelis oppose two-state solution. Support annexing Judea and Samaria. On March 27, 2019, CBN News share tweet +1 Israelis remember the Six-Day War. Israelis remember the Six-Day War. A new poll from Israel's Haaretz newspaper found that most Israelis oppose a two-state solution. According to the poll, only 34% of Israelis support creating a Palestinian state in the Holy Land. A quarter of the poll's respondents include non-Jews, most of whom are Israeli Arabs. On the issue of the West Bank, which is historic Judea and Samaria, 42% of Israelis are in favor of annexing the biblical lands either partially or fully, while 28% oppose annexation. Even those who prefer the two-state solution are in favor of annexing the West Bank, which is currently partly under the control of Israel and partially governed by the Palestinian Authority. The Zionist Organization of America says Israel's opposition to the two-state solution makes imminent sense. Such a state would be an Iranian Hamas PFLP-Fatah terrorist state, dedicated to Israel's complete destruction, the organization explained.
I just had a new idea. A new idea is building a world wall, building walls around all countries. Would that be positive? It would create a ton of jobs.
In a statement, it is ludicrous to even think of creating a Palestinian Arab state when that would-be state's predecessor, the Palestinian Authority, PA, continues to pay hundreds of millions of dollars per year in pay-to-slay payments to terrorists to murder Jews. Haaretz's poll lines up with previous findings about Israel's attitudes about the two-state solution. Khalil Shaikaki is a professor of political science and director of the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research in Ramallah. He oversees a project called Palestinian-Israeli Pulse, a joint poll which measures both Israeli and Palestinian perspectives on the conflict. The 2018.
Or perhaps they just have to make camps, basically, for the pedo-elite, and everybody that's not pedo-elite is exterminated in these camps with these incinerator ovens, and the cadaver boxes are waiting.
Joint poll found that support for the two-state solution among Israelis and Palestinians is the lowest it's been in more than a decade when a steady decline in support began. The study says skepticism about a future Palestinian state is related to serious doubts about feasibility. Palestinians and Israelis are both divided almost equally about whether a two-state solution is still possible, or whether settlements have expanded too much to make it viable. The report says, among Israelis, 48% believe a two-state solution is viable while 45% believe West Bank settlements have spread too much to make a Palestinian state possible. Meanwhile, 56% of Palestinians say the two-state solution is no longer viable, while 39% think it is. Still, fewer people on both sides support three possible alternatives to a two-state solution: one state with equal rights, one state without rights, and expulsion.
So these are two people reporting about the same poll, but the Allgemeiner writes about 34%, and this Christian Broadcasting Network, it says here in the URL, here writes about 39% basically. And Haaretz is a paid website now, I think. So then you can only read it if you pay.
Or transfer, the report says. According to the report, the values and goals of both Israelis and Palestinians have changed very little over time. Jews were asked about the values of 1. A Jewish majority, 2. Greater Israel, 3. Democracy, 4. Peace. Among Israeli Jews, peace and a Jewish majority are seen as the most important values, 28% and 27% respectively. Followed by democracy, 21%, and Greater Israel, 18%. The researchers also asked the Palestinians to rank the following goals: 1. Israeli withdrawal and establishing a Palestinian state, 2. Obtaining right of return for refugees to 48 Israel, 3. Establishing a democratic political system, 4. Building a pious or moral individual and religious society. For Palestinians, the ranking has been relatively stable, with little change over the course of the past 2 years. The top priority for Palestinian goals remains Israeli withdrawal to the 1967 borders and the establishment of a Palestinian state in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip with East Jerusalem. Followed by obtaining the right of return to refugees to their 1948 towns and villages, 29%, building a democratic political system, 14, and building a pious or moral individual and a religious society, 13%. Ranked the lowest among the list of goals for Palestinians. New Haaretz poll, only 34% of Israelis support two-state solution. March 29, 2019. Among Israelis, 48% believe a two-state solution is viable while 45% believe West Bank settlements have spread too much to make a Palestinian state possible. March 27, 2019. Most Israelis support annexing Judea and Samaria. Annexation, Latin ad, 2, and nexus, joining, is the administrative action 1, and concept in international law relating to the forcible acquisition of one state's territory by another state. 2, it is generally held to be an illegal act. 2, it is distinct from conquest, which refers to the acquisition of control over a territory involving a change of sovereignty. 3-4, and differs from cession, in which territory is given or sold through treaty, since annexation is a unilateral act where territory is seized and held by one state. 5, it usually follows military occupation of a territory. 1. Annexation can be legitimized via general recognition by international bodies, that is, other countries and intergovernmental organizations. The administrative action 1, and concept in international law relating to the forcible acquisition of one state's territory by another state. Make the world great again, please. You have the power of imperialism, F global gov, F eco-fascism, F two-state solution world war plans, F the Pope, but use a condom. Make the world great. Self-driving will replace Uber drivers? These mass shootings are to push their illegal gun ban. The people with remote torture weapons and through-the-wall cancer radar did not stop them. Stop mutilation of boys and girls, stop forced marriages, start de-Islamization. Other than the 5.6 birth rate and 90% of the pedos are Muslims, I think what Tommy says is 100% accurate and true. He's cool for helping to protect children. Annexation. Examples since 1949: 2.1 Portuguese India, 2.2 Sikkim, 2.3 Rakhine, 2.4 Western New Guinea, 2.5 East Timor, 2.6 Western Sahara, 2.7 West Bank, 2.8 East Jerusalem, 2.9 Golan Heights, 2.10 South Vietnam, 2.11 Kuwait, 2.12 Crimea, 2.13 Antarctica. Basic Law, Jerusalem, capital of Israel, passed by the Knesset on July 30, 1989. Federal law admitting to the Russian Federation the Republic of Crimea, passed by the State Duma on March 21, 2014. Two examples of unilateral annexation laws.
Unilateral.
Of an action or decision, performed by or affecting only one person, group, or country involved in a situation, without the agreement of another or the others. Relating to or affecting only one side of an organ, the body, or another structure. Unilateralism is any doctrine or agenda that supports one-sided action. Such action may be in disregard for other parties, or as an expression of a commitment toward a direction which other parties may find disagreeable. South Vietnam. See also, Reunification Day. North Vietnam de facto annexed South Vietnam following the military defeat of the South Vietnamese Army in April 1975. 32. The communist regime of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam had officially reunified the country. Crimea. Main article, Annexation of Crimea by the Russian Federation. In March 2014, Russia annexed most of the Crimean Peninsula, part of Ukraine, and administers the territory as two federal subjects, the Republic of Crimea and the federal city of Sevastopol. 33. Russia rejects the view that this was an annexation and regards it as an accession to the Russian Federation of a state that had just declared independence from Ukraine following a referendum, and considers secession as a result of irredentism. A term often used in Russia to describe these events is reunification, meant to highlight the fact that Crimea was part of Russian Empire and later Russian SSR. Antarctic main article, Queen Maud. One example of a claimed annexation after World War II is the Kingdom of Norway's southward expansion of the dependent territory Queen Maud Land. On most maps there had been an unclaimed area between Queen Maud Land's borders of 1939 and the South Pole until June 12, 2015, when Norway formally claimed to have annexed that area. 34. The Antarctic Treaty, however, states, the treaty does not recognize, dispute, nor establish territorial sovereignty claims. No new claims shall be asserted while the treaty is in force. Citation needed. Palestinian loss of land 1946 to 2000 unexplained. blogs.timesofisrael.com. The image above is a depiction of Israeli expansionism that has been featured in several articles by University of Michigan professor Juan Cole, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, a former Reagan administration official, included it in an article in Foreign Policy Journal, and it has also appeared in The Atlantic and the websites of numerous of organizations including Justice and Peace in Palestine and Israel and the National Council Ontario Canada Arab Relations. Another article, at salemnews.com, considers it a picture worth 1,000 words. It has been widely distributed and considered factually correct by public intellectuals and laymen alike. Despite the Daily Dish's contention that this sequence of maps isn't propaganda, it's fact, a map-by-map analysis found that these 4 stages were inconsistent with historical fact. In reality, the maps have been disingenuously labeled and deceptively arranged to paint an exaggerated picture of Israeli land expropriations. More specifically, the first map, labeled 1946, is actually a map of what the League of Nations in the 1920s predicted Palestine would be like in 1946. Since historical maps are generally more accurate when they portray past events rather than future events, I would recommend a UN map from 1950 that depicts the Jewish, Arab breakdown of land ownership in Palestine of 1945.
So perhaps we should use these maps used by these, or made by these maps, made by these Luciferians, these Freemasons of the UN, who have, of course, as their book publisher and religious branch, Lucis Trust, former Lucifer Trust. So I'm not even gonna read this. I don't believe what Ari Heistein has to write or say. And there are many sources indeed that use this map. Here's another one that claims that these are lies. The myth of the 4 maps. So has this land ever belonged to the Palestinians or Arabs or other people? What do they want us to believe? That Israel has always existed and they've always owned that land from Dan to Beersheba or something, perhaps. So what's the real story then? So if they're religious or they refer to the UN, etc., then I doubt every word they write, and then I'd rather read something else because there's so much out there.
Maps, loss of land. Click on any image to see it on a screen where you may be able to download it. You also can use Print Friendly, which will allow you to save the page as a PDF file. To do that, click the printer icon in the vertical social media bar on the far left edge of this page. See also the collection of maps in the Palestine Teaching Trunk, all map pages. Maps homepage includes map of the Middle East, Ottoman Empire through 1949, 1967 to the present, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, coming soon, Area C/Jordan Valley, coming soon, loss of land, above. One of the best teaching tools to convey succinctly what has happened to the Palestinian people. This postcard-size loss of land map card, sometimes called Shrinking Palestine, can be ordered online with several options for information on the back of the card. To order them, see FOSNA's website. Above, a more detailed loss of land series of maps, with some brief information on the events leading to each change of borders. See a larger view here. Above, click here to see a larger view of this map, which also includes a brief history of the changing borders in Palestine. Above, many people have noted the similarities between the ethnic cleansing that American Indians were subjected to during the colonization of North America and the events in Palestine over the last century. Today there is growing solidarity and action between American Indians and Palestinians. See the video and statement at a demonstration during the United Methodist General Conference 2016 and Palestinian Actions for and with those protecting land and water at Standing Rock in North Dakota. Above, many comparisons also have been made between the Bantustans to which black South Africans were confined during that country's apartheid era and the fragmented communities that Palestinians have now in the West Bank, similarly created by systemic colonialism and racism. A system of apartheid. Clearly such fragmentation of their land and of their communities was not intended, then or now, to facilitate a cohesive, viable homeland.
Perhaps it was owned by the Egyptians.
For either peoples, rather it is a method of controlling an oppressed people and fully exploiting, colonizing the territories to which they have lost access. The South Africans understand too well what is happening to the Palestinian people, and South African leaders have testified.
And perhaps the Egyptians still legally own that strip of land.
To what they have identified as apartheid, worse than they experienced in South Africa, on their visits to occupied Palestinian territory. In 2009, the South African government commissioned a study by an international team of legal analysts to determine if the Israeli occupation regime met the legal criteria for the crime of apartheid under international law, the International Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid, which was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1973. See the results of that study here. All map pages. Maps homepage includes map of the Middle East, Ottoman Empire through 1949, 1967 to the present, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, coming soon, Area C/Jordan Valley, coming soon, loss of land. See also the collection of maps in the Palestine Teaching Trunk.
So on one of these pictures we can read, of course I don't know if this is true, and there are others claiming that it's fake or whatever, a brief history of how the borders came to be in 1897. The World Zionist Organization is created to advocate for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. 1917, the Balfour Declaration. British Foreign Secretary James Balfour approves the creation of a national homeland for Jews in Palestine. Then we jump to 1947, UN Partition Plan. The UN successfully passes a plan to separate Western Palestine into two states. Jewish leaders accept the proposal while Palestinian Arab leaders reject it. prompting riots. In 1948 to 1949 Arab-Israeli War. The Jewish community declares itself independent in the new state of Israel. War breaks out between Israelis and forces from nearby Arab nations. February, July 1949, Israel and the Arab states agree to an armistice that results in Israel controlling 78% of Palestine. The UN estimates that more than 700,000 Palestinian Arabs become refugees during this period. 1967, the Six-Day War, and 1993, the Oslo Accords, Camp David Summit, and the Roadmap for Peace. 2005, Gaza Expulsion Plan. Israel's defense forces leave the Gaza Strip and 4 settlements in the northern West Bank as part of a unilateral disengagement plan. September 2011, Palestine submits a bid to the UN for statehood and membership. Well, what if they're lying and in reality we own it? The Dutch people own this piece of land. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, does it have any cancer oil? Bet it does, bet it does. Should be deep enough. Anyway. I just wanted to show that picture. Let's see. Oh yeah, nice. Ball. It's Hubble. Actually, it's a better telescope than Hubble. The Witch's Cauldron and the Wolves, Jesuit coat of arms, Saint Ignatius, Loyola, etc. So I'm not the source claiming that. Actually, I found it on Citizens Action Network, and that may not be the original source that claims that all intelligence agencies are Masonic and controlled by the Jesuits either. And it's kind of important when they control what you think, with synthetic telepathy as described in the Malech patent. And also control your emotions. And they've had that techno since 1974. Oh yeah, wow. Israeli Supreme Court with the dollar bill, with the pyramid, etc. How Egyptian. Now it's dead. I can hear the beta perps laughing via me, so it's like they take possession of our bodies with that synthetic telepathy machine. And they're so creepy, ooh. And the perpetrator that tortured my teeth out of my mouth and my mother to death speaks Dutch. So it's the Jesuits and Masons. And whoever controls that beam can also extort bankers and others and tell them to advocate population, legal population reduction, etc. Though they may have done that of their own free will, they may have joined Freemasons of their own free will, and they are doing this together to 7 billion people to benefit themselves. Just with Holocaust, etc., you can Google that as well. And in Wiki, they write about Bolsheviks and an anti-Semitic canard, but in other articles they admit that Bolsheviks existed, etc. So I'd have to study that as well, and that's the CIA Vatican edited encyclopedia, of course, Wikipedia. If you behaved like your government, you'd be arrested. libertystickers.com. If we do not act, we are acted upon. George Orwell. Resist the New World Order. Resist a global government. Resist centralization, power to the pedo. And promote decentralization, power to the people. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the New World Order. If you don't come to democracy, democracy will come to you. Frontside, backside, Vorderseite, Rückseite. HARP is a fake facility open to the public every 6 years, not micro, but scalar waves. And there you see that picture of the camouflage-faced array antenna. Okay. The myth of the four maps. Debunking the map that lies. elderofzion.blogspot.com. Okay, this may be interesting. Let's see, map. Is there a map of 1899 or something like that? I'm discovering something now. I'm looking, are there any borders on this map? Perhaps this red line and a blue line or whatever, green. Well, it seems like it was part of Saudi Arabia, etc. So I doubt that that land wasn't owned, basically. That's what some people claim. Where's the thing that we were just reading? This map is a lie. The first panel of the traditional version of this map has the biggest lie. While I presume that the white sections are indeed the land that was privately owned by Jews, the land in green was not privately owned by Arabs. Well, basically, if you also take the biblical narrative, well, perhaps we shouldn't, of course, but they came from Egypt or something. I don't know. Splitting of the Red Sea, etc., out of Egypt. But first they went into Egypt, etc. I don't know. And I don't believe anything that I read in the Bible either. Only a tiny percentage of land in Palestine was privately owned. Well, I'm sure there were people living there. 1946 is not that long ago. And perhaps they claim that they own that land. They've always been living there, and somebody says, oh yeah, but we didn't officially register it. You didn't own that land, we own it now. Something like that, I don't know. This is not your house, we have an official document here. It says you didn't officially own this house, you had no right to officially live here. We now possess this house. We have to confiscate it, we're so sorry. But I have no idea if that's what happened, so... The various categories of land ownership included mulk, privately owned in the Western sense. Merely land owned by the government, originally the Ottoman crown, and suitable for agricultural use. Individuals could purchase a deed to cultivate this land and pay a tithe to the government. To be protected and served, and not to be murdered and exterminated and tortured with directed energy weapons. So taxpayers didn't pay the tax money to be depopulated. Only some of them, perhaps. Malul uncultivated Miri lands and owned by the government that would revert to the state in theory after 3 years. Mawat or Mewat, so-called, quote, dead and quote, unreclaimed land. It constituted about 50 to 60% of land in Palestine. It belonged to the government. If the land had been cultivated with permission, it would be re-registered, at least under the mandate, free of charge. By the early 1940s, Jews owned about 1/3 of Moab land in Palestine and Arabs about 2/3. The vast majority of the total land, however, belonged to the government, meaning that when the State of Israel was established, it became legally Israel's. Between brackets, I believe that about 77% of the land was owned by the government, assuming 6 million dunams of private land as shown in this invaluable webpage on the topic from which I got much of this information. Well, I think there's a conflict here. If you first write that the land, about 2/3 of the land belonged, was owned by Arabs. It was owned by Arabs, however it belonged to the government. So was it owned by the government or by Arabs? And who was the government then? So I have my doubts about all this. You should read both sides of the story, you could argue. But if somebody would like to explain it, you could always Skype Prologic999. They're attacking my throat with these high mems. I can take some Vicks inhaler. So actually I'm not sure if they're high MEMS, hybrid insect, microelectric mechanical systems, these remotely controlled insects of DARPA. But they've shown me they remotely control them, so if they're not high MEMS, they can also control them without implanting a chip in its body during the larvae phase, with synthetic telepathy as described in the Maleg patent. And I don't believe anything Wiki writes either, of course. Well, perhaps they can make a deal with the people in Gaza, perhaps also get a passport or whatever if they give them the Temple Mount, and everybody can live in peace in Israel. But that's not what they want. They want to reduce the global population to 500 million and rule the world from Jerusalem. A satanic Luciferian totalitarian global government. And a fake cancer scalar orb Armageddon Moshiach Messiah. And there will never be a real Messiah, because God does not exist. So the neural network can never become the creator of heaven and earth, and therefore never God in the sense of the Bible and Quran, etc. Never the creator of heaven and earth in reality. Though at a certain point the neural network may be able to make everybody believe that it is, and it can also time travel, so then most people would think, ah, it must be God, if it can show me the future, etc. Through my own eyes, or through a camera or someone else's eyes with synthetic telepathy. It's no miracle. And neither is splitting the Red Sea with this scalar technology. But apparently everybody's so brain controlled they cannot talk about it. Except for a handful of people. And I don't really believe in the concept of being Jewish. And perhaps we should do away with these concepts that split us, the human race as a whole, up into groups. I think that's what they're about. divide to conquer and then playing these groups out against each other. Perhaps I shouldn't believe in the existence of Muslims either. There can be Saudi Arabians and Palestinians, Africans, etc. But because there is no entity, why would I believe in these concepts, basically? What's the use of believing in people that were supposedly elected with electronic voting as our leaders? Why would I believe of those people that they're our leaders, etc.? What's the use? I mean, they were able to crash these planes into the WTC, cancer-causing Tachinellus planes, because they were fly-by-wire planes. Of course, they can only be controlled electronically, so that's easy with this technology. So they can sabotage anything that's electronic. So the Amish might one day defeat us all. They work without electronics. And I think the Jewish people are also aware of the power of electricity, because they have Shabbat and then they cannot, or they're not allowed to kindle fire, etc., according to the BS religious laws. But that's just to learn about the neural network and the fact that everything is energy, and perhaps it's part of the programming, etc. So all these religious people are misprogrammed, Muslims, Christians, Jews, to believe in something that does not exist. And if they are convinced that it does exist, then they can start doing very weird stuff. Such as the Inquisition, for example, in which they tortured 50 million innocent people to death. Especially the ones that told the truth about their fictional deity not existing, and the fact that they lie. So believing in something doesn't make it so. People have no mind power, they cannot move the glass with their mind power. It's always a trick with a magnet or with the scalar technology. And perhaps the Iraqis didn't own that land either, you know. Not officially, you could argue. It's owned by the US now. It's US territory. And the Netherlands is also owned by Israel, I guess. After the two-state solution, World War, I think that it may be teached. Well, I think it's wrong to lock up these people in Gaza, etc. And actually, I was kidding, of course. Iraqi people own Iraq, etc. It's kind of simple. So that's why I'm just looking for a map like before around 1940 or whatever. What was that piece of land called? Did it have a name, that country, or did they conveniently leave it out or something? Well, it's not very clear. Bad scan. Batman. It's almost like they're trying to hide it. So then you can buy this map, and then you can see it in more detail. So I was horrible in history lessons, and I still don't believe anything I read, etc. People have lied to me too many times. Once a liar, always a liar. And I've never told a lie. Only a series of lies. No, I'm kidding. So what do you all think is a solution to bring peace to the Middle East without a two-state solution world war? Just annexing it if Russia doesn't do anything? Would it also be better for the Palestinian people? Or could it lead to a world war? And is that really their plan? So you could also claim, well, all these borders and countries, we don't believe in it, we own the world now. To hell with all their legal rules. So. Of course, the only real laws are the laws that we make. They can't quote me one codified law anyway. And actually, I'm kidding, the codified laws are still supposed to be enforced, and they're pretty good, and the result of thousands of years of developing and learning from their mistakes, etc. So driving on the right side of the road really makes sense. So perhaps you could change these laws of gravity one day. Israel-Palestine web censorship. And you would argue it doesn't matter who owns it. If Germany or some other country would invade the Netherlands, why not let them take it, basically? Perhaps they can share some beer with us and then we can smoke, we can share some weed. Well, it's kind of boring and to say that the green areas were quote Palestinian unquote land is simply a lie. Map British Mandate 1920 and 1922. Mandatory Palestine in 1946. Well, basically I'm looking for a map of what it was like before the British Mandate. I don't know anything about it, so when did Palestine come into existence and stuff? And since when do they call it Israel? I label this whole broadcast satire. It's higher, lower, faster, slower, whatever. If they like banks so much that they call it the West Bank. Mandate for Palestine. Not a United Nations document. Wow. Okay. So this was called Palestine, not Israel. Or, well, I don't know. I'm just guessing here, so it's not something I'm claiming. Because I was wondering, didn't I have an atlas? Atlas in school? But that can be. I thought that it was called Palestine and not Israel. But I think by that time it was already called Israel. Perhaps there were also historic maps in it, but I doubt it. Well, let's see a map of Palestine. Does it still exist? is Ra-El, and Ra is evil. Tov is good. And El Shaddai, Elohim, etc. So basically, you have Yah and you have El. And Vaya'al is sort of going up or something. But it's all about the same fictional deities, so don't let them fool you. Don't brainwash yourselves with lies. It's prayer, basically. It's a prayer so it doesn't happen. So you all don't brainwash yourselves with lies. Compare is on. The top border is Syria. En Haifa, that's in Israel, suppose het niet zo. This is clearly a different map, showing different borders, because this is not Syria, and on this map, this is Syria. On this map of Palestine. So have they wiped Palestine off the map? So what I've heard is that what Ahmadinejad said was not Israel will be wiped off the map, but Israel will fade in the hands of time. But of course people that don't speak Arabic wouldn't know. Palestine WordPress.com. Ethnic cleansing of Palestine, the map. So if I wanted to know the truth, I guess I'd check if there was a piece of land named Palestine. Or what it was called before they started calling it Israel. And what the borders were and things like that, and if there's any evidence for this. Some skulls, some bones, etc. That would make it likely that people lived there. Though these skulls and bones could also have been placed there by others. That is highly improbable, isn't it? Are we having fun yet? Or is it on to take all fun away and keep us all busy with nothing, basically? Perhaps that's safe, perhaps that's just helping us all. Palestine and the loss of land. And if I had a harem, cannot go play copyrighted tracks now, but I can feel my voice is splitting the silence, splitting or vibrating these air molecules, air that's taken into my body and then it's vibrated by my vocal cords. It's also heated up a little bit, so then it all comes out. And then part of that same air is inhaled again. But most of it is fresh air. Transjordan. Today we're trans way back when already. Or perhaps it was more written like become Transjordan. Syria is on that map. Transjordan. Dead Sea. Dead Sea and Dead Sea. Dead Sea is just a bad sea. And I'm still not seeing. But that white part, this is marked red. But this part is not marked red. Beersheba. And then also exists, it's mentioned in the Bible, the Torah. So perhaps I should also write something like the land from Den Helder to Maastricht was given to us by an entity I may not reveal the name of. So now I own it and you own it. All believers shall take place in the world to come. And we call this land Christoffel, after the Christoffel Pie, sold by Trumpy. Amstelveen. You own it now. And basically we've split ourselves up in tribes. And so, of course, incest is not allowed, but if it is to maintain our tribe, then it is permitted. Otherwise our whole tribe would have died out and stuff. Okay. Aleppo, Schleppo. Does this say Judea, or is it just my imagination? Can I zoom in any further? I'm exploring this image scaled, and then I should be able to zoom in on it. The pointer should change into a plus sign. I think this may be Judea, but they cut off the top of the D basically, so it's like this is the D, so this is J, U, D, E, A. So it's now more like Julia. Julia's welcome, of course, but I doubt if she's listening. And it's another Julia, I bet. They didn't name it after her. Julia, oh Julia. Or is it Julian? I have to listen to the song. The UN is spell.un.org. I thought this was a non-UN map. Here, when I press the back button, basically this is the image of Palestine, and it's on this website, and here it says as is, reference not a United Nations document. So I thought, now I finally found the uncensored wheel map, etc. And then I see it's the UN.org website. So I've had it. I think I'm gonna do other stuff. And I don't like that the shirt is okay. Palestine. Tiny Palace. Donations are welcome. Please like and subscribe and share this vital info on your timeline. Thank you all for watching. Wonderful audience, YouTubers. And make more videos, dear fellow YouTubers, because otherwise we are not an influence on the timeline. If we write all these messages in the chat and communicate and watch all these videos, that can also be fun. But it's much better to make your own timeline, to be more influence, as long as you do the right thing. And I think it works if you think big and about what you can do for all fellow humans and study reality, then you come up with good ideas. Sooner or later. Theoretically also bad ideas, because everything is energy. So perhaps it helps to slow down and choose wisely, perhaps make a plan or a list of all the things you like. So if you like population reduction, you can have gulag at the top, culling and cremation ceremonies and stuff. A whole list. And perhaps scientists could work on your ashes, or if you're buried, on your body if you'd want to come back as a deadly virus. So it's something you can control to a certain extent. Just an idea. So, thank you all for watching, and universal peace is inevitable because the human race is evolving, neural network is evolving, so people are beginning to see, hey, so torturing and killing each other is no fun. It's much more fun to have sex and to play games and all these video games and stuff, and massage each other and scratch each other's back. And it's much better to have peace than a bloody world war and mutually assured destruction. And to try something vegetarian or vegan. There are vegan sausages, merquez they are called, and I think they're very good. They may be a bit spicy for some people, but once you're used to it, I think they're better than any salami or real meat. And I used to eat meat as a child, basically. I think most people do. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. Many people are misprogrammed, and that's also done by these people that want to reduce the global population and that want to sell their own products, etc. So boycott all Monsanto companies and anyone else you think must be boycotted for your timeline, for your future. That's one tool the consumers have. But if you do it alone, then it doesn't have as much influence as when you do it with millions of people together. Just FYI, another free tip. So now I'm really moving on to the next thing, whatever it is. Safety first, breathe, yoga, hetero exercise. And peace to all people who are trying to help to create a better future, wherever you are. Never give up on controlling all these factors that control aging. And don't let the fictional entities win. Do things based on logic, not on dogma, superstition, and belief. Knowing is smart, believing is stupid. So, yeah. So if anybody knows what that piece of land was called before it was called Israel, if it was Palestine or some other country, please let us know in the comments. And I've given 2 solutions to prevent a 2-state solution world war. And I don't know what Russia would do if they'd annex these areas, if Russia has anything to do with that or not. So that's also a question to you all. If anyone knows, please jot it down in the comments and let others know about my channel, so that the truth, the good information that everybody must know about spreads around the globe fast. And so that people start doing things for universal peace, creating universal peace instead of more imperialistic bloody wars that are a waste of taxpayer money, of human lives, and that create loads of terrorists and fugitives and immigrants that flood the other countries where there is no war. And that may be the best thing to do, to go to a safe country. Is it best to lose your passport? It depends, I guess. Perhaps not always, I don't know. I'd have to study that first as well. I take one more sip of tea and then I think I'm gonna switch off the camera. Okay, aluminium foil really shields against cancer cell phone radiation, and it's best to ground it and put it on the wall on the side the radiation is coming from, and then you can paint over it so that you're not in the aluminum fumes in your room at a cage of Faraday. So, making your own broadcast, that's my tip also. Tune in next time on Try Something Vegetarian on YouTube for universal peace.